Today, we want to talk about investments. Here in one of the properties that we put together. This is a duplex that we acquired and also sold to another investor. I'm here with my good friend Daniel. He works on the disposition side, pushing a lot of the inventory that we get off market to other investors.
So I'm Daniel. I work with Home Ventures. I do a lot of the acquisitions and the dispositions here, and I try to focus on investments that make sense for a lot of our investors in terms of the numbers. And so it really has to meet a criteria for them that it's positively cash flowing monthly. This is one of them, so we'll talk a little bit about it, and Brian's gonna dive into the numbers with us.
There you go. So being a duplex, one of the most common topics that you probably have heard is about house hacking. House hacking is basically having the opportunity to live in one of the units and rent the other one, and the other one being the income that can pay off the mortgage for the total of the unit. The cool thing about it is exactly that. It's like living for free, number one. And then two, later on, if it's time for you to move out, you can rent the unit that you used to live, and then you have two doors that can generate income as well. I want you to tell me more a little bit about how can you improve a duplex like this that might need a little bit of work and add some value in the future.
In real estate and wants to purchase an investment property, you don't have to be an experienced investor. You can just do some common, easy things to do that you can actually get financed and tax deductible, like change the windows to impact windows, do the roof. These are all things that there's government programs for that can really help out, add value to your property. And I'm sure that you get asked this question all the time, like, Brian, what is it in 2025? Like, what's the easiest way to get into real estate investing? And I think house hacking is exactly that.
House hacking is the best one for any young professional that has some money that they want to invest. Is the best way. I always tell people, if I were to do it differently when it comes to purchasing a property,
especially your first one.
Your first one,
yes.
Yeah. You can get to finance the property as a primary residence and get the very low down payment, as low as 3.5%. And then you only have to live for it, I believe, only 1 year. After that, you can move out and keep the same terms as far as the loan and just buy the property that you really wanted.
Yeah, so if we're looking like income producing property, like a duplex, a triplex, a quadplex, talk to us a little bit about the numbers. Like, what would that look like for, someone that's gonna come in, for example, buy this property for $599,000,
yes,
right? They can rent out one of the sides for, let's say, $3,500 or $4,000. What's their payment going to look like? What are some of the numbers? How does it work?
That's a great question. When I hear numbers, especially we're talking about somebody trying to get into these for the first time, I like to disclose a little bit more about the financing part. Where's the money coming from? Because if you're financing, you have multiple options. You can buy a property like this with an FHA loan and pay 3.5% down payment. It can be a conventional loan, or it could be an investment loan. One of them called
DSCR.
DSCR. I always get confused. The difference with that particular one is that instead of the bank looking at your income, personal or employment income, they look at the property itself and the income that it can produce. So it literally release and alleviate any documentation that you have to provide as an individual, but more than anything, what the actual property is producing.
Exactly.
And the lenders, they look at bank statement and things like that.
Yeah, so I actually spoke about in one of my other videos about the DSCR, and it's exactly what Brian's saying. They'll look at the ratio between the gross income of the property and what the mortgage payment would be. So in this scenario, a property like this would be generating close to $7,000 a month, which would be well above what your payment would be with, let's say, 15-20%
Yes. Let me ask you, what is the famous 1% rule that they talk about when it comes to investment?
So as I'm sure you hear all the time from all of your buyers, you hear about the cap rate. I want a 10 cap, I want a 12 cap. So an easier way to kind of analyze investment properties and kind of like a rule of thumb would be the 1% rule. So if we're taking this property as an example, right? Each side, the market rents here for a duplex, that's a 3-2 on each side, is typically going to be around $3,500 a month. Okay. So if we take $3,500 and $3,500, that gets us $7,000, right?
Per month, yeah.
So $7,000 monthly. If you take that and you apply the 1% rule, right? 1% of $599, or call it 600,000, would be $6,000. So this is well over the 1% rule. And then you easily can evaluate the numbers and say, this is a good investment opportunity.
So in other words, it's just an easier way to underwrite a deal from the get-go.
Instead of, taking taxes, insurance, cap rates, and all of that, this would just tell you very quickly, back of the napkin, is this something that I should look into? Yes or no?
Correct. It's about, is this worth my time? Keep going and investigating, because the 1% rule alone doesn't tell you if it's a good investment or not. Every investor, I tell people all the time, it depends on what you're looking for, and every investor calculates their return in a different way. But the one term that people use the most or go by it is the cap rate, which is basically dividing the net income that the property produce by the market value of the property multiplied by 100. And usually a good investment, a good rule of thumb will be if it produces 8 to 10% at least. Anything lower than that is questionable. Every investors will decide if it's good or not.
Brian, I want to ask you, since you deal a lot with buyers and also sellers, and in this market in South Florida, how hard is it, or how easy is it to find a property that either A, hits the 1% rule, or is between an 8 and a 10 cap?
That's a great question. It all depends on what lens you're looking at it. If you go by the 1% rule, at least in today's market, it's a little hard unless you find deals off market that you and I know how to find those.
Come to us.
And that's why we're here.
Come to us. This is why we're here.
I mean, we're literally here in a property that meets the 1% rule. So if you're able to have access to a source where you find properties, it might be in distress. That's one of the easiest way to find them, where you have to put a little bit of work. And if you have the contractors or know how to make those repairs, that can give you the 1%.
I'll give you an even better idea. Use a killer agent like Brian, and he'll negotiate down for you and get you the best deal.
So it comes down to that, man. It's having access to the right people, or the right people that will give you access to the right inventory. And these guys also have access to that. So if you're looking for any off-market investment opportunity, multifamily, land, or anything here in South Florida, we're here for help.
Hit us up. Let's work.
That's awesome, man. That was good. I think that was good, huh?
Yeah, I mean...